Hello and welcome to the Swan Pricing Show, where we talk about pricing expert services and not commodities, which is like unfamiliar to most people because most people, when they sell something that is a commodity, and that is what we call duck pricing. So the usual pricing, and the unusual pricing we chose to call swan pricing, like in the ugly duckling fable. So I'm Filip Vucic. I'm a price segmenter, and I work with people, with experts all over the world, and I help them charge more. And this is my namesake.
Hello, guys, and welcome. I'm Filip Zolota. I'm the CEO of Growth Marketing Agency Maujo.
Last time we talked about price fairness, and we touched on the subject of clients usually deciding on price, and we said that's another rabbit hole, and we'll circle back to that. So we are here circling. Just to make sure we could dump on clients only deciding on price for a couple of hours, I think at least, but we're not going to do that today. I hope mostly. We are going to talk about our side, right, the expert side, and what we can do to dissuade people or to help them to decide on other things like quality and not price, right? Cool. So just to kick it off, when I say a commodity, I mean something that you can get from many sources, effectively from an unlimited amount of sources. Of course, they're limited. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to even try to get something from 100 people. If you can get it from 3 or 5 or 16 people, it's effectively as much as you will ever want. And it can also be applied to low variance services. So you can wash a car, and you can wash a car well, and you can wash a car really well, but even that the highest tier is not that different from any competent car washing, right? On the other hand, you have people like surgeons or designers or like software developers, where there's a huge variance between software and the software. Those two things can mean hugely different things, right? And in those kinds of environments, it's much less clear what the trade-off actually is, because when you have a commodity or a low variance service, it really matters mostly what the price is, because everything is the same, right? I'm going to get my car washed here or there, and it's going to be clean. If I believe it's not going to be damaged or scratched or left dirty, it's just about the variance of price relative to the value, which is fixed. But when value is not fixed, price doesn't really tell you much about that. And even if you know, oh, this one costs less, yes, but what is that, right? What exactly did you buy? So Filip, what do you think? What do you think contributes to a state of being where most clients, in most cases, simply want to know about the price and nothing else?
Yeah, the main challenge and problem is on the service provider side. They don't have clear communication nor unique value proposition in terms of presentation, what they're actually bringing to the table. What is the end result of that specific game and the engagement? And that is primarily the problem, because when you're, for example, compare the developers, you have junior staff, medium, senior, somebody who is communicating and speaking with developer, people who are not professional, proficient in something, they don't know the difference. How you can see what the other side knows? Check the case studies, speak more in depth about the understanding of specific business needs, niche, and requirements of specific project. And primarily it is on our side to present ourselves properly and also give relevant information to the prospects and client side, how we differentiate our service, our offer compared potentially to the competition. And that is a primary challenge and thing which needs to be resolved. Clear communication, clarification of all relevant information, data presentation, case study preferably, and value proposition by default.
For sure. And I think false positives are also very, very dangerous here, because I can hear you say, oh, there's a junior, there's a mid-level, and there's a senior programmer. So seniors are better, right? Yes, but it's not like it's a junior waiter and a senior waiter. I'm not dissing waiters, but there's a difference in their service, but not nearly as much as it can be with developers. I've known a case where a client was losing money on his best developers, and because although he was charging more for them, he was charging like 60 up to 130% more than for the juniors. But those guys were 60 times as efficient, right? And he couldn't charge 60 times as much as for a junior. So they were so quick about it, he was effectively losing money by using them. And they are expensive. So people outside the industry usually can't really tell, even if they know, okay, there's, people with juniors and seniors. I know what that means. No, you don't. And I don't know that. I've worked in IT for 5 years, so I have in a marketing management capacity, but I have some idea about that, not a lot. But I know because of that, just how much clients can miss here as a false positive. Oh yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So false positives can also be very, very difficult to deal with here, right? And what you were talking about, the value propositions, is that the same as USPs?
Exactly. Quite often the problem you'll see, we can take, for example, the agency world. So we are a full service agency. Okay, what do you actually do? What is the value proposition, selling proposition, and what you can do for me actually? Yeah, we are doing this, we are doing that. It's too generic in terms of the communication presentation. So when the client, the prospect, is talking with that kind of company and in parallel with many others, it is the same for him. He don't see the extra value based on which he would make the decision and go engage with you specifically and start the business cooperation. That is the problem, because people way too often say, okay, we are professionals, we do our stuff professionally, we are continuously thinking and having continuous two-way communication with the client, very proactive, fast-paced, amazing. All service providers are in that specific realm, but that is not specific. That is something which is kind of expected from the professionals to do things and deliver on specific level. But what makes a difference is how you are doing it. What is your actual expertise, knowledge, and understanding of specific realm, business niche, and similar. Those are relevant parameters in the entire story.
That doesn't mean that it's easy to do. So all of these boasts, right? We do continuous conversation. That can be easy to do.
Yep.
Or not. But if you're a medical doctor, you don't get to say, you know what? I'm a doctor with a medical degree. I mean, it's hard to get, yes, but I'm expecting that of you, right? And in the agency world, I guess maybe some clients shouldn't expect that from everybody, but they do, right? And this is the generic talk, like we solve tough problems, we care about all of our clients, compared to who?
Exactly.
right? If I was describing myself and I said, well, I'm the human with the two eyes. What? And one mouth, right? Well, you are describing yourself, but you didn't do anything with that, right? You didn't. If I said I'm the human with one eye, that's descriptive. If I say I'm a human with three eyes, that's really descriptive. Two eyes, it's just waste of everybody's time, because
Yeah.
compared to everybody else, I'm the same. So it's generic. And I always like to use a translation example here, because it can happen to anybody, right? Let's say that you have an urgent need for translation of an important document into Korean. And let's say there's nobody in your immediate network that you trust that can recommend a translator. Then you go and Google it, right? Of course, or whatever. And you will find some people. And then what? This is important, this is urgent, it's very important that people do it with precision and quickly, right? Within a certain timeline, or you could lose, I don't know, $1 million.
Yep.
So who do you choose? You can visit their websites, but if all they do is show you, basically the same stuff as everybody else, how are you going to decide on price? You won't dare take somebody who has a low price, because, well, this is important. And this is exactly how your clients feel. If there's nothing specific, if there's nothing that you say about yourself that cannot be said about basically anybody else in your industry, or most people in your industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a bad feature that I have two eyes. It's just not informative. And if everything I say about myself is fairly safe and doesn't offend anybody and doesn't exclude anybody, then I'm going to be judged on price, because what else would they judge me on? There's nothing else. Price, they understand, right? The people who have high price probably merit high price, probably, but I don't have the time to find out. So I'm just gonna, if I have to take a chance, and this is important, then I'm going to take a chance on getting it right the first time, which will cost, but it will cost way less than me losing this Korean job. So if you provide your clients something which they can understand, not your peers. If a Korean translator had the same or somebody who speaks Korean very, very well, had the same problem, he would have a much less of a problem, because he could compare stuff and say, aha, okay, this is Google Translate only, and this is a work of art. But people who speak Korean very well don't have such trouble, right? We're talking about most people who don't, and they will be price buyers because those translators made them into price buyers by not providing anything specific about them.
Exactly. It is our responsibility to make the value proposition and all those triggers so they can differentiate us from the competition in the service provider expertise based realm. That is important. That is our primary responsibility. That's it.
Yeah, I usually compare it to kids. So I have a really smart 6-year-old, and he wants to know everything. And of course, sometimes when I explain things, he doesn't understand it. But I can't be mad at him. It's my fault, right? He doesn't understand some words that I use, so I have to use words which he understands. It's on me. If he doesn't understand something and he wants to understand something, it's completely on me. This is what I'm saying here, right? I want to just circle back on your USP or unique selling proposition. This is fairly often used, maybe misused, because people think it has to be elaborate. It doesn't. It doesn't even have to be profound. I can be the closest to you. And if that's important for some reason, yeah, absolutely. State that, right? I know 3D imaging shop that
Mhm.
has a huge amount of hardware at hand. So I think have about 2 terabytes of RAM at hand, so they can do really jobs really quickly, because usually you don't have to do that. You can just send this huge amount of data to a supercomputer somewhere or something, and you get it back. But what if something goes wrong? What if the network falls? What if this? What if that? They eliminate a lot of what ifs by having it at hand, and simply they can guarantee speed when others can't. And this is enough. Even if they did everything else the same, being able to guarantee speed would be enough. And also there's 2 subtypes of unique selling proposition. Maybe that will bring it closer to some people. One is what is usually meant by USPs, which is points of difference. So what do we have that they don't? And this example that I gave would be one of those. But there's also points of parity. So we give this, and so does everybody else, but ours has the better numbers here, right? So that's a point of parity. That's not an absolute advantage. It's a relative advantage. And those, sometimes you don't have absolute advantages, right? You fix software, everybody else fixes software. There's nothing unique about it. And this is when people sometimes throw their hands up and saying these marketers are idiots. They have no idea about my industry. There's simply nothing to tell, right? And sometimes points of parity are enough, or simply enough. And even sometimes there's nothing special about you. You don't give off anything that's nobody else does, but you also it can be an advantage that there's no risk of X with you.
Mhm.
So there's a lack of something that they can expect, something bad that they can expect with others. So a typical conversation I had with an accountant long ago, who said, well, there's nothing special about me. And I said, okay, can we try? And she really did. She said, well, I care about all of my customers. Okay, let's try another one, right? Just for my sake. Okay. And she said, well, I know all of the laws and all of the bylaws. I said, lady, you would be in jail if you didn't. Okay. So she said, yeah, but everybody says that, but not it's not always true. With me, it's true. And I said, I understand that.
Yep.
And I believe you. But when you speak to people in prison, everybody else is guilty, but me, I'm innocent. Right? It's not a good look, let's say. So I flipped it around. I said, okay, let's say that I had a friend, and that friend had a bad accountant. How would we know? What would he tell me? What's happening? And she said, "Oh, well, that's easy. That's trivial. Maybe to you." And she said, "Well, then your friend would be paying fines because they would be late and this and that, and maybe some taxes, misfiling it." I said, "Okay. So when's the last time that a client of yours paid a fine?" "Oh, never." Okay. How long have you been in business? About 35 years. Now, everything else being the same. So they have the same number of years in industry, this and that. And if you talk to 2 accountants who are almost identical, and one of them said, hi, I'm an accountant, and I do accountant stuff. And the other one said, hi, I'm an accountant and I do accountant stuff. And no client of mine ever paid a fine in 35 years. Which one would you be prepared to pay more for?
Exactly. That is the gap. You fill the gap. You fill the gap. And that is the point. As you said, sometimes there is no big difference in terms of presentation and created and generated value. But there is always a difference which you can upsell and play around that specific element, and that's it.
Yeah, well, there's even when people think it's completely hopeless, it's usually not. There's usually some difference. The great thing about humans is just how different they are, and their experiences shape them in completely different ways. And when we're talking about high variance stuff, like expert advice, I think you would be very hard pressed to find two experts which are exactly the same, which is the opposite of the duck market, right? You know, potatoes are potatoes. Yes, there are different kinds of potatoes, but within the same kind of potatoes and this within the same class, if it's a first class potato of this kind, it's, yeah, the only thing that we can talk about is its weight, and that's it, right? So the question is just how much and how many, and that's a duck way of thinking. A swan way of thinking is you first have to solidify the real value that they're getting, because they're not going to see it by themselves. They're not trained to do that, right? And like we already talked about false positives and this and this. They may think that, you know, a photographer is a photographer. No, but unless you show them this, they're not going to know. So I had a client who was a photographer who I asked him, so what do you think people come to you for? And he looked at me like I was a lunatic, right? I do photography. Said, so what? People want you know, photographs of themselves? Yes. Said, well, they have mobile phones, right? They can take a photograph of themselves anytime they like, so for free. So I'm guessing they're not coming to you for photographs. And it dawned on him that and that's something that needs to be addressed. What you're selling is not what they're buying, right? You might be, as the popular saying goes, you might be selling drills, but they're buying holes. And this kind of helps dislodge people from the idea, oh, well, I'm just the regular old software developer. Everybody knows what that means. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Have we shaken this out enough?
I think we did. I think we did.
Okay. So I'm happy to call it quits. I had my rant. So folks, thank you for listening. And I will see you next time on the Swan Pricing Show. Bye.
Yeah, catching up soon. Bye.